Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. We are live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. We closed up last hour talking about this improbable run by the Commanders, 250-1 in the preseason to win the Super Bowl. They would tie the 1999 Rams as the longest shot to cash a ticket like that, going all the way back. The Patriots in 01, our producer looked 60-1 at some spots. Their win total was 6.5 when they got it done in 2001. So not a lot of people were high on the Commanders. I know this. Our next guest certainly was. Pro Bettor Chris Macero joins the program now, and he is on the progressive guest line. Chris, thanks for the time this afternoon. You and I were going back and forth on the Commanders a lot in July and August. Can you explain why you were so high on this team, why you liked them so much in the preseason?
Yeah, how you guys doing today? Feels like just yesterday I was sitting in the studio before the first week of the season. It's amazing how fast the season goes by. But yeah, going back on it, I looked, and it was a crazy year the year before for Washington. They had such a distinct ability to screw things up. They had 6 kickoffs or punts returned against them. It was just all sorts of nonsense and just horrible on defense, horrible on offense. And I just thought a clean slate was what they needed. And to get Dan Quinn, who's a miracle Tom Brady comeback in the Super Bowl away from being a Super Bowl championship coach. And I looked at their coaching staff, and some of the things that caught my attention were they had some ex-NFL coaches. Now, obviously, no one's that high on Anthony Lynn, but he was an ex-NFL head coach. He's a running back coach, coordinator. They have Larry Izzo, who's a special teams coordinator, caught my attention because they were so bad on special teams. And Cliff Kingsbury, a high-profile offensive playmaking coordinator, who was also a head coach. They brought Joe Witt over from Dallas. So there was a lot of strong coaching people. Plus, the wide receiver, DB, and linebacker coach were all impact players. Bobby Ingram, William Gay, Ken Norton, Ryan Kerrigan. So it was a solid coaching staff. And I really liked what Daniels was doing at LSU. And this is news to me this week with all this virtual reality training I'm hearing about, how he's running the playbook at 1.75 and watching film at 1.75 with virtual reality. This kid is calm, composed. I've never seen anyone so young, going back to maybe Tom Brady, who was that composed. And that was in his second year. So I thought the things were coming alive, and I really didn't like Dallas at all. And obviously the Giants were going to be rebuilding. And that's why I played a bunch of exacta. I did a lot of exactas in the division, Philly and Washington, Philly, those won. I had over Washington, the win total. I had Quinn Coach of the Year, outside shot. I think you have this as well, Mitch. Jaden Daniels, Rookie of the Year. So hopefully we get that. And what I didn't bet it before the season, but midway through September, I just said, you know what? I'm taking a shot on this team. And I have a $1,000 wager on Washington for NFC, which gets back $41,000. Hopefully we can get that in. DraftKings is offering me about $10,000, but I'm not going to take it. I'm going to go a little bit different route, try to hedge, be able to maybe recoup the $10,000, but still have a shot at the big money.
Okay. How do you plan on doing that, by the way? Because I'm asking you that.
You can do it. You can do it a couple different ways. Okay. You can just take some. You can take some money line on Philadelphia, which I have. But that's, I got it right at the beginning when it came out minus 230. That's up a little bit higher now. I played some parlays the week before, because the two teams I don't have at all were Philly and Kansas City. More because I'm stubborn and I do not like Philly and Kansas City, not because I'm an intelligent person, because Philly and Kansas City seem to always be there. And like you said, you're going to be walking your dog if that's what we have for the Super Bowl. But I did play some parlays, Philly, Kansas City, both to make the Super Bowl. And I'm using teams as anchors that I really feel strong in future parlays, like Oklahoma City for the West, Duke and Auburn for college basketball. Fortunately for me, after the Rams-Buffalo game, when Josh Allen stormed all the way back, didn't get the win, I said to myself, I think this is the year for Josh Allen. The man is possessed. The next week they beat Detroit. But the week before, I put some Super Bowl bets in on Buffalo, also to OKC at 2 plus 225 for the West, which is great value now because they're about even money, with 6 to 8 college basketball teams that I like based on my metrics for college basketball that should be there for the finals or Final Four area, which are Houston, Marquette, Duke, Auburn, Tennessee, Ohio, Iowa State, Illinois. So there's different ways to do it. You can spend a little bit of money. If you end up losing, and not getting the big payday with Washington, you're going to have a lot of options going forward for college basketball, the NBA, certain things. I have a great ticket that I did 2 months ago because I didn't have Philly at all, and I put in a ticket. One of the bets I had already won. It goes with Philly for NFC, and I have it with Duke, which pays well over 5 figures. So worst case scenario, I'm going to have massive tickets on Duke for the final, for the championship. You know, I'm hoping Washington gets the victory for me. I have other tickets with Washington to the college basketball teams as well. You know, you gotta spend a lot of time with it. You gotta put the time in. You gotta work the numbers. You gotta make sure you're not over betting certain things, because then you devalue the factors in the parlay. So I'm pretty confident that I have it mapped out well. I'm obviously rooting for Washington to get the job done, because that's just easier to get the money right away.
You're also only a 4.5-point dog in the Super Bowl if you win too.
Yeah, like I was mentioning off air, I'm comfortable throwing these other hedges on Philly, because if they do win, I have a $100 ticket, which I wish I did more. I can't believe I only bet $100. That's 60-1 for them to win the Super Bowl. And I'm hoping that Buffalo gets there, because then I would have Buffalo, Washington, where I couldn't lose, because I have parlays both ways. I'd already cashed the Washington bet. So that's another way to do it. If you have more than one team, you can do, at DraftKings, you can do crazy things where you can do alternative line parlays, where I have Philadelphia plus 4.5, Kansas City plus 4.5, and I was all week long playing money lines in college basketball, big ones like minus 1,000, to get that down to even. Like on Tuesday night, I had an Iowa State, Alabama money line parlay with Kansas City plus 4.5, with Philly plus 4.5, paid even money. So now I'm rooting for, hey, Washington and Buffalo win by 4 or less. I still hit that parlay, plus I get my teams moving forward in the future.
You do spend a lot of time at this.
Yeah, remember I sent you that picture last week when I was out there. I'm like, I'm working on these parlays. You gave a gasp. I was like, you got to do it, because you can spend a little bit of money to cover yourself when you have huge leverage. This is a huge leverage ticket, 40-1. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't let that go to waste. If it does lose, you want to be able to be like regrouping it and having all sorts of stuff for the future that might even pay more. You know, if I get that parlay with Kansas City and Philly to win, and I go to Auburn or Duke, my Auburn and Duke is going to pay more than $41,000, because I have it so many different times, so many different ways.
What's your biggest concern? 4 straight road games. Barkley could go crazy. What is it Sunday?
I'm definitely more concerned about Barkley going crazy. I mean, you could see Detroit, if they just ran, I feel like if Detroit had just run the ball every single play last week, they probably would have won the game.
I think you're right.
But Washington is also trying to take the air out of the ball a little bit. Granted, they didn't have to, because they had some big turnovers and they had some short fields. But the way they did against Tampa, they just grind it out. They go for it on 4th down a lot. They don't have the big explosive plays, but once in a while they can hit you with it. I'm more worried about Barkley, but I think Quinn's going to sell out to stop the run, because I think they know Hurts is not 100%. How could you be after you got rolled up like that? So even though they said he practiced fully yesterday and today, I'm a little concerned about his health.
It's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the sports betting network, the first network ever dedicated to sports betting, by the way. Our guest is professional sports bettor Chris Macero. He is on the Progressive guest line. All right, so there you've covered the bases now with the Commanders. I love your vision. I love how you crack down the lines, break them all down, and try to see what's going to happen in the future. You're also a big horse player, and it's a huge weekend, right, with the Pegasus coming up. Can you give us maybe a pony or two that you like this weekend, Chris?
Yeah, we'll just go for the big race, the Pegasus Cup, the World Cup. It's a 9-furlong race. It's the last race on Saturday at Gulfstream. And I'm going to go with the 11-horse Locked. It's trained by Todd Pletcher. Johnny V is going to ride. This horse was sired by Gunrunner. So the daddy has already won the Pegasus. Actually won it on my birthday, 2018. That's January 27th. I can't believe that's 7 years ago that Gunrunner won. But Gunrunner's 5-2, so it's not like going out on a limb. But there's a lot of speed in this race, and the 10, Skippy Longstockings, is going to ensure a hot pace. So the 1, 3, and 10 are going to go out. You're going to have the 2 and 4, White Abario, the 4, and 2 Saudi Crown stalking. And I like the 11 as a closer, because there's going to be a lot of speed. Johnny V and Pletcher love to win at Gulfstream. So I'm going to be playing the 11 to win, some exactas with the 11 and the 2, and exactas with the 11 and the 4, and one long shot, a big closer, Krupe, the number 5, could be coming from way far back, might be able to get into like a trifecta or maybe even get the exacta if the pace is a real meltdown type of thing. So a lot of speed, 2 and 4 stalking, 11 hoping to pick up the pieces in the lane. So I'm going with the 11 horse lock, Todd Pletcher and Johnny Velasquez.
All right, very good. I was told today, by the way, quickly here, I was told to keep an eye on Barnes in the future market for the Kentucky Derby. Do you know anything about that horse?
Yeah, it's Baffert's newest young one. The thing is, it's tough in the Santa Anita West Coast races. They're not running against much. Yeah, he looks very, very impressive. He's winning by a lot, named after his assistant trainer, Jimmy Barnes. So obviously, when you give a name like that to you got your right-hand man, you want this one to be a really solid one. So I think the value in the future market is kind of gone on Barnes. So I would kind of pass on a betting on the future bet, but obviously one to look out for the Derby.
You're the man. Awesome job with the Commanders. We hope it gets there for you, okay?
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you soon.
Horse racing action heating up South Florida. $3 million Pegasus World Cup Saturday. Our friends at First Bet have you covered. Everything you need to hit it big. Sign up for a new First Bet account. Promo code VSIN200 to claim a $200 sign-up bonus. Plus, download their free Pegasus World Cup wager guide and get up to $10 back when your horse finishes second or third in the biggest races at Gulfstream. Head over to firstbet.com. Promo code VSIN200. Firstbet.com. Promo code VSIN200.
That was professional sports bettor Chris Macero with us here on the Progressive Guest Line. And he knows what he's talking about. By the way, he showed me photos of like his notebooks and stuff like that. My comparison always goes back to Kevin Spacey's notebooks in the movie Seven. Total psychopath. It's nuts. Anyway, some more props coming up next and an angle that is 72% this weekend.
This is Follow the Money on VSIN.
So if we're going to have good weather in Kansas City for this time of year on Sunday, Chiefs, Bills, total 47.5, you think we're going to get points? Even though like this Chiefs offense is not exactly trustworthy at this point?
Yeah, they have a great defense though, and I could see maybe some long drives that end in field goals. I can't say it's going to be a high scoring game.
I'll give you this.
Yeah.
And the reason why we point this out every week throughout the year and specifically in the postseason, Steve Makinen's numbers, vsin.com. I tweet it out every week at Mitch Moss Radio. Matchups pitting a 1 seed versus a 2 seed championship Sunday. Over the total 13-5-1 since 2002. That's 72.2%. 47.5, hovering around key numbers. 47 is a key number. 48 is a key number. 49 is kind of a key number. Can they get to 48 plus points in the game?
I don't see it. And also I want to see if Buffalo can run the ball. I'm surprised Cook didn't do anything in the first meeting. And then is it more Allen keeping plays alive on third down? And if he's doing something.
Well, how about...
I mean, I would think it'd be through the air that they're going to do, and with the tight ends. But Shakir should have a big game. Kincaid should have a big game. And then it comes down to the other guys, much like Kansas City. Coleman, Cooper, Worthy, Hopkins, Brown. Are these guys gray? Are they going to do anything? Is someone going to step up and have a big game here with some of these big names and these other players that could be an unsung hero here other than your typical Kelsey and maybe Shakir, that someone can do something?
Okay, so Josh Allen, what do you make of his rushing yards prop in this game? It's high. It's in the mid to upper 40s, as we would expect in the postseason. He has played the Chiefs 3 times in the playoffs. He has rushed the ball for 228 yards in those 3 games. I mean, it's been like very efficient for him running the ball. 7 carries at a 12.6 yards per clip in one game. 11 carries, averaging 6.2 in another. 12 carries, averaging 6 yards in another game. Scoring 2 touchdowns in that same contest. Is he going to just turn into Superman? You asked the question early. Does he have to be Superman in this game to win? I don't think he has to be, because I think the defense is good enough to like maybe slow down the Chiefs offense, which doesn't do anything anyway.
That's doable. Yeah, I don't think that shouldn't be a problem, especially if they're going to blitz and if they can't get home. He could also take off and run and maybe get 25 yards on one scramble alone.
Sure.
Like I like Mahomes over 25.5. I don't want Hurts over
with
39.5, and Daniels is 54.5. Daniels is also plus $1.30 to throw a pick. Hurts is $1.10. Mahomes is $1.10. They haven't turned it over in 8 games.
I know.
And Allen's $1.15 with the yes/no INT.
And again, Mahomes in 3 playoff games against Buffalo, 75.2% completion percentage, 306 yards per game, 8.7 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns, 0 INTs. His last 7 games this year, 12 touchdowns, no INTs. And in the postseason, 42-8 touchdown to INT ratio, 16-3 record overall. Plus, they are 10-0 at home on the season. Home teams are 17-5 over the last 11 seasons. 13-9 ATS. Championship Sunday here.
Who takes care of the ball? And the incredible stat, Buffalo plus 24 in the turnover differential. Yet KC hasn't given it away. The other thing is the luck factor. Can Buffalo get a break? Can there be a special teams play? I mean, you haven't won a road playoff game since the early 90s. And Mahomes is 3-0 straight up in ATS against them at home in the playoffs. But going back to the luck factor, Likely's toenail out of bounds. Week 1. Could have lost. Bengals should have beat them. The penalty that went against them. Atlanta should have won Sunday night.
Horrible
the
penalty.
No call, the holding in the end zone. Blocked field goal against the Broncos. Denver should have won. Last second field goal against Carolina. Raiders botched snap. Should have beat them. Dicker, the horrible kickoff as well that led to the game winner for Kansas City. So at some point you're thinking, is their luck going to run out between the officiating and all these close calls? Yes, you're 16-1 and everyone plays. But, I mean, come on. And last week it wasn't the turnovers. It was just an egregious, just bizarre box score where Houston was great on third down, outgained them by more than 100 yards, and they lost the game. Mm-hmm. And they had the big kickoff return to start. And, of course, they recovered their own fumble with the luck factor with Kansas City.
So I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to run the ball very well in this game. Maybe Mahomes does on scrambles, but like the combination of Pacheco and Hunt.
Yeah, Pacheco didn't do anything last week either. He didn't look like himself. And then, so what's realistic for Hunt? 40 yards, maybe?
Maybe.
I mean, I know, yeah.
And then it also ties in here. The Bills are 8th in rushing EPA since week 10. They were 5th before last week against Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. And since week 10, now we're talking about the last half of the season. This is from Zach Cohen on vsin.com. The Bills are 23rd in dropback EPA and 26th in dropback success rate against. Mahomes has only averaged 24.8 completions per playoff game in his career, and that number is 24.5. He's making a case for him to go over his completions in this spot and in the story that I'm reading from. So Bill's really good against running attacks until last week against Baltimore. And Mahomes in the postseason has been dynamite, obviously, at going over numbers like this. And the Bills are not great at advanced metrics per dropback. That's why I think, again, there is an angle here where you might have a big number cashing on most receiving yards in the game.
Yep.
The Bills don't pick up a lot of chunk plays. And there was a story in the offseason where McDermott talked to Scotty Scheffler's caddy, and they got in the conversation about hitting singles rather than going for the long home runs. And McDermott relayed that message to Josh Allen, and he loved it. And that's kind of been how they've operated this year. And we saw it last week again, like they didn't do anything in the aerial attack against Baltimore. So under that consideration, you would think that maybe Shakir's going to have like 7-8 catches, but that might be for 60 yards. And the Chiefs are really bad against tight ends, so that opens up a spot for Kincaid or Knox or even somebody else on the Chiefs team. If the Bills like bracket Kelsey, don't allow him to beat them, maybe that's like a Noah Gray type or a third receiver from the Chiefs somehow that leads the game in overall receiving yards.
All right, hit me with this. Charge mentioned this, and you're on it as well. 21% of targets against the Bills go to running backs. How about the prop you like for the best bet?
Well, I got several of them, but we'll go with, how about P. Ryan 2+ catches plus 145? Right? Everything that we just talked about here. And the Buffalo Bills allow 44 yards per game in the air to opposing running backs. That led the entire league. That was the most allowed by a team per game throughout the entire year. That was like their biggest weakness overall. And P. Ryan is the guy that they use almost exclusively in long distance or passing situations. Although we did not have a catch last week, I'm going back to the well again this week, and I'm going to bet 1.5 over at plus 145, I believe, is the number that's available right now.
And the yards are low, too. You can go yards, too. Best bets,
over 8.5.
That's right. Best Bets brought to you by G-Bank, official bank of VSiN. If you're serious about sports betting, need the G-Bank Visa signature card. Most credit cards treat sports books and gaming transactions as cash advances, even when you put your own money on the card. G-Bank treats gaming transactions as purchases, so you're typically saving up to 3 to 5% on cash advance fees right there. For a limited time, you get a $250 bonus after you spend $1,000 in the first 90 days. Apply now, VSiN.com/GBank, VSiN.com/GBank, subject to credit approval.
So we brought up earlier in the show, kicking around the idea of, what is the Commanders neutralizing Saquon Barkley? What does that even mean? His rushing yards prop is 130.5, and he beat that number both times he played him. He went crazy. He had basically 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in both games this year.
It's a good question because the Commanders say we have to contain him. Well, what's contained? 90? 110?
Right. So with that in mind, Washington also overall on the year, 22nd in DVOA against wide receiver number 1. They allowed 75 yards per game to the position. 25th against wide receiver number 2, allowing 50 yards per game to the position. And they are 26th against wide receiver number 3, 36 yards per game to the position. Can Hurts get Brown the ball? Can he get Devontae Smith the ball?
He better, yeah. I don't think that should be a problem. Question is, could Brown catch the ball? I mean, it was a beautiful throw in the snow that would have put him up 10 on that drive before halftime.
Yeah.
But it should be there. And between Goddard, Smith, and Brown, those guys should be able to get 40, 50 yards, all three of them.
We are talking about some of the best weapons that any team has in the entire league, right? The Brown-Smith combo receiver is elite. You throw in Goddard, very, very strong on top of it. And this Commander secondary, it just has not been strong the entire year. And they allowed more than 500 yards to the lines last week. The 5 turnovers did in Detroit. And, 74 injuries on defense again.
Yeah. It was easy going up and down the field. And certainly on the ground. But then the silly interceptions and the fumble.
I think
it's a completely different game if they're going to go up 14-3.
I know.
The 3rd and 1 play. I mean, they're going to score again. It's going to be 14-3. And then the building's up for grabs. And then it got away from them, and Goff had the 2 horrible interceptions.
I think the path is there for that game to go over, Eagles and Commanders. I think the Commanders are going to be able to score too. I don't think they slow down the Eagles. If it doesn't happen this year, then it's never going to happen. Is that real or fugazi? Up next here on VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard are here to make you a friend of ours.
That would mean you were made, guy.
Investigating what is and isn't legit.
Because that's a fugazi. All right? That's a fugazi. We looked at it for 2 seconds.
Seeing through the lines to make you a better.
I know you know. And I know you know I know you know.
The FTM Army is being sent for.
In our thing, you get sent for, you go in alive, you come out dead. And it's your best friend that does.
These 2 wise guys would never steer you wrong.
Forget about it.
This is Real or Fugazi on Follow the Money.
The originators of this bit, bringing it back today before Championship Sunday. If the Bills don't beat the Chiefs this year, Pauly, it's never going to happen. Is that real or fugazi?
Oh, it's too strong. Fugazi. I still think there's plenty of time for Allen, and he's been close. It's funny you ask it that way, because I would say I feel that way about Lamar Jackson. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Really?
Yes. Like every playoff game, mistakes. They come in so many wins. Watch out for this offense. Turnovers. Turnovers. Blow it. I'm more concerned about Jackson than I am Allen, even though the history with Buffalo. But I still think Allen has plenty of time, and this was a big season for Allen, like you talked about, with no digs, no drama. Let's hit the singles. And he MVP candidate.
What happens when the Chiefs regain their offensive swagger?
What do you mean? When? Who knows?
I'm saying next
maybe,
year after.
Yeah. Maybe Mahomes takes a step back at some point. I don't know.
Are we seeing that right now?
Could be. That could be too, right? Kelsey's going to retire. Maybe these other guys don't work out. But maybe with Rice and Worthy and all these guys, the future is going to continue to be bright. And you got there with, how long's Andy Reid going to coach? I don't know. Pete Carroll, 73, got hired today.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Andy does this for a long time too, but I know.
All right, the single most important matchup in this game is Josh Allen versus Steve Spagnuolo. Is that real or fugazi? We're talking about, Mount Rushmore of defensive coordinators, history of the game.
Yeah, more specifically, probably against Brady, right? Because it's come down to the coordinators. Can Brady dial something up to get these guys open? And
it's also going to be like Brady.
The air?
Yeah, like how much is Brady going to take off? Brady. How much is Allen going to take off in this game?
I'll say that's real. And plus, you know what he's going to do. I mean, look what he did last week against 8 straight plays he blitzed. It's incredible.
Right.
And Stroud had no answer, and the offensive line had no answer. You see Slowick got fired today?
Good.
How about that move?
Deserved it.
Yeah, wow.
Remember, he was like the talk of the town last year.
Yeah, right. Gone.
And it was garbage this season.
So, okay, I'll say that's real. And there'll be a good chess match between the two.
I will say, it is crazy the way it feels when you're watching a Chiefs game. Spags knows when to hit all the buttons. Doesn't he? Yeah, when you're talking about that, when he decided, okay, now we're going to start to bring the heat.
And when they need a sack, they get it.
I know.
Knock them out of field goal range, third down, get a stop.
All right, Buffalo wins the game if they contain Travis Kelce. Real or fugazi?
Fugazi. I think there's a lot more to it than that.
Okay.
Number one, it starts with, can you play clean football? Number two, I could see a game where he only has 40 yards and they still lose. You know, that's because they still have so many weapons, although they didn't show it last week. But I'm not going to fall over if Hollywood Brown has 70 yards. If Hopkins has 40 yards and a touchdown.
Oh, no.
I'm not, but that's just, they can play complementary football and mix it in and get everyone involved. And who knows, maybe Hunt has a big run too. But I think there's a lot to it more than just contain him. And I think it starts up front. Can you protect him? And also, do you play clean football? Same thing for Mahomes. That's why they lost the first game. He turned it over twice.
I think the Texans would have won the game last week had they contained Kelce.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody else did anything.
Right? Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be that type of game, though.
Okay. The Mahomes-Reed combo pushes past Montana and Walsh and Bradshaw and Knoll for the second best combo ever with another title. Real or fugazi? Walsh-Montana won 3 together.
Yeah.
Knoll Bradshaw won 4 together.
Yeah, but it's also 7 straight AFC title games.
Correct.
That's the other thing. We'll never see this again. Who's going to do this again? And Goodell's parody, and look what Washington's doing. Yet this organization's done it 7 years in a row.
Oh.
And the 2 losses were in overtime.
Who's to say that it doesn't go to 9, 10, 11?
That could, yeah.
Right, so we're
going
going
to have to say that's real.
We're going to go from the Patriots run for 20 years into this now with like no break in between. So, okay, what you just said, Jane Daniels in Washington will turn into the next Mahomes in Kansas City over the next 5 to 10 years. Real or fugazi? Oh,
that's too strong. Fugazi. Yeah. I mean, the pieces are in place. It looks good. You come in, but we saw the same thing with Houston, right? That Stroud regressed and they had issues.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have happened. But certainly all the pieces are there. But you still have to worry about Philly being a force for years. And then certainly what's going to happen in Detroit. Green Bay has a young team. And if Johnson can figure it out in Chicago, too. But they get a lot of help, though. And window's probably shut for the 49ers. Stafford might retire. You lose Ben Johnson now. I mean, the pieces are falling apart in the NFC.
What if J.J. McCarthy's good? I'd say the Vikings are going to have a nice run for the next 5 years minimum.
Yeah. Pete Carroll will finish his contract with the Raiders and coach 4 years. He'll be 77 years old. Real or fugazi?
That's teetering on real. I think so. Because this is, the more I think about it, I think this is exactly what the Raiders kind of needed, right? Because
let me get the list.
If you go back since their Super Bowl appearance, it's just a total clown show.
Callahan, Turner, Art Shell, Lane Kiffin, Cable, Hugh Jackson, Allen, Sperano, Gruden, Bisaccia, McDaniels, Pierce.
Think about that list.
Ooh, now you got a guy who's won a Super Bowl and a college title.
Sure. So I'm actually glad they went this path. And then to give this guy, 3 or 4 years, I think he'll probably make it to the end of it.
Well, this was second option, pretty good. I mean, if you wanted Ben Johnson, couldn't get him, you get Carroll, not bad.
Sure. And again, trying to settle for the next, what you think might be up and coming guy beyond and Ben Johnson might not work in Chicago. We have no idea, right? So, but to take a guy below that even, I think would have been a huge minus for this organization. So to take Pete Carroll, I think today looks pretty damn good for that team.
Now we're waiting on Jerry and the Saints. I'm surprised they haven't, Jerry likes to play games, but if you talk to Schottenheimer for 7 hours, back-to-back days.
Can you imagine? I mean, that's automatically going to be the worst graded hire of the offseason.
If it's him, yeah.
Yep. The only way Barkley doesn't have a huge game on Sunday, and I hate to say it, but the only way he doesn't is if he gets hurt. We talked about containing him, right? What's containing? 21 carries for 80 yards?
Yeah. I'd say it. I'm going to say that's real. He's just too good. And the home run's coming as well.
It's on the way.
They had him bottled up in the first game and then, to go for $150, $140 in both games. And then what he did against the Rams. But you're right, like you said it earlier. If I have a quarterback who's banged up wearing a brace, this guy needs 30 carries. Man.
Yeah, right.
And it's on Kellen Moore.
So a 4th down attempt will come back to haunt the Commanders in this game. Real Fugazi.
Well, you think at some point it's going to, right? Because this is the other luck factor. This keeps working out for Dan Quinn every single week. When's this going to blow up in his face? It hasn't. It happened to Dan Campbell many times. When's it going to happen to Quinn? It worked out in Tampa. They didn't get every one of them. But when they went forward 4th and goal, they led to 2 touchdowns because they got the turnover after that. But
I will also say that...
Yeah, you would think this would be, if it's not here, it's got to happen at some point.
I think one of the reasons why it's so successful, again, you have Kingsbury calling great plays.
Yes.
And Daniels is awesome at keeping plays alive, and he can pick it up multiple ways, running or finding the open guy. And by the way, when he takes off, that means that it could be 5-6 seconds, and guys are going to get open because it's tough to hold on to coverage that long. If you watch what the Commanders call in short yardage situations and then compare it to what other teams do where you want to break your TV, it's night and day. And now, not every team can do that because not every team has a Jaden Daniels. But you can be creative with your play calling, and I think that's the biggest, downfall of these other teams in the league. Mm-hmm. So there you have it, Reeler Fugazi for this coming weekend.
He did it in the final game of the regular season against Dallas. They're we're not going to overtime.
Yeah.
And Quinn looks right at him. What do you have for me?
Oh, that was awesome.
And he's, sure, I'm ready to go.
Yep.
He's looking right at his sheet. Touchdown. They win the game. Getting ready for big game 59 with a big deal to match. Save $59 off the VSiN Pro annual subscription when you sign up using promo code FTM. Every best bet, every host, every guest, the betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, the dog videos, the betting guides, prop analyzer, every sport, everything that's up there, including Nigel with his picks coming up. VSiN.com/subscribe, promo code FTM. Save $59 off the VSiN Pro annual subscription today. VSiN.com/subscribe.
All right, you mentioned it, Pauly, right there, so we'll get to it coming up next. Our man in Amsterdam, well, not really, but kind of close, Nigel Seeley is going to join the program coming up next. He was always with us every week when we were on the mornings here on VSiN, and been a minute since we talked to him, but he's going to have best bets in soccer this weekend, including a team to win to nil. He's got a player prop and a lower league match as well. Find out who Nigel likes this week next here on VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Thomas Gable from the Borgata coming up. Eagles have won 14 of 15. Has this been a repeat of a repeat of 2 years ago when everyone was coming to town or going to the Borgata and hammering the Eagles on futures? We'll get his perspective and thoughts on what's going on with the NFC title game coming up. It's our friend Nigel Seeley at Seeley_Nigel on X. Usually visit with him on a weekly basis with the Prim. We have a couple lower league picks and to nil. Here's Nigel's opinion and take on this week's soccer card. Take it away, Nigel.
Hello, it is Nigel Seeley, and I'm back here on VSiN's Follow the Money to give you my best 3 bets across the English Premier League this weekend. And I start at Anfield in the Saturday game at 10 o'clock Eastern Time between the Premier League title favourites And the league leaders, Liverpool, up against one of the relegation favourites in Ipswich Town. Liverpool left it late against Brentford, but they got the job done. They're extending their league at the top of the Premier League table. Can they be stopped? It looks very, very ominous for anybody in the chasing pack to stop down the Reds. And will they get a win against Ipswich at the weekend? Well, they're minus 1,115 to get the win. If you fancy Ipswich to get 3 points, a famous 3 points at Anfield was 25-1, and the draw is 10-1. So where do we make some money on this match? Well, where I think we should make the money is by betting Liverpool to win to nil. So Liverpool to win 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0. As long as Ipswich do not score and Liverpool win, we cash on this ticket. If you look at look at Ipswich's matches against the teams at the top end of the Premier League table, they lost 1-0 to Arsenal. They lost 2-0 in the reverse fixtures to Liverpool. They got beat 6-0 by Manchester City last week, 1-0 against Nottingham Forest, and they got beat 4-0 by Newcastle. So all those matches, they lost to nil against the better teams. 6 of their last 7 losses for Ipswich have been to nil, and Liverpool don't really concede many goals at Anfield. So I'm going to go for Liverpool to win to nil. The price is minus 120, a lot better than the heavy minus money on them on the money line. And if you look at Ipswich's next couple of fixtures, next week they're at home to Southampton. That is their priority. A trip to Liverpool is not the priority. They know they're going to come short here, and I expect Liverpool to keep that title charge going with a win and a win to nil. Which is minus 120. That represents some kind of value. The biggest game in the Premier League this weekend is probably on Saturday afternoon, 12:30 Eastern time. It's the evening kickoff over here. And it's the match between the champions and the faltering champions, Manchester City, up against Chelsea. Manchester City are the biggest price they've ever been at home against Chelsea in a Premier League match. They're approaching even money. And Chelsea have been bet overnight from plus 275 to plus 250. That's still a big price for Chelsea. Manchester City are in all kinds of problems. They were 2-0 up against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League, threw it away and got beat 4-2. That's not the first time they've done that. They've done that against Feyenoord. They've done that against Brentford. They are conceding goals at an alarming rate. You might look at City's recent form and think, well, they're back to winning ways. But these are the teams they beat. Leicester, one of the bottom 3. West Ham, massively injury crisis. Salford in the FA Cup from League 2, and Ipswich, another team at the bottom of the Premier League table. They haven't beaten Liverpool, Tottenham twice, Brighton, Aston Villa or Bournemouth, and when they play top-class opposition, they usually come second best, and Chelsea are top-class opposition. I also think this is a big match because obviously Chelsea have no European football this week, so they're fully rested. City have had that match in Paris last night on Wednesday, and then next week they have this huge match at home to Club Brugge. And if they do not win that match, well, they're out of the Champions League. Who would have thought that? Wouldn't even make the top 24. So that's got to be the priority. It's a great time to play Manchester City and Chelsea here at plus 250. Bit bigger than my usual bets, but I think it's too big. City are opposable, and Chelsea I fancy at plus 250 to get 3 points. My final bet is on Sunday. It is in the London derby between Crystal Palace and Brentford. I watched Crystal Palace last week against West Ham. Crystal Palace were excellent. They were very, very strong defensively. They played 3 centre defenders, and they never gave West Ham a chance. West Ham did not have a single shot on target. If you look at Crystal Palace, they are the 3rd lowest home scoring team in the Premier League. Only Ipswich and Southampton have scored less goals than Crystal Palace at home. And although Brentford are really good at home, they don't get involved in many high-scoring games on the road. They're the 4th lowest road scorers on the road. Brentford, which is a bit of a surprise, and there is only 1 point between the two of them in the Premier League table. I expect this to be tight. Brentford have drawn 0-0 in a couple of their recent road matches at Brighton and Everton, and I don't think there's going to be much in it. If you go back through history, this has been a great fixture for Crystal Palace. 1957 was the last time that Brentford won this London derby. Crystal Palace have had a brilliant record. The last 4 matches between these two sides have been under 2.5 goals. 5 of the last 6 has been under 2.5 goals. And I think in recent form as well, and how good Crystal Palace are defensively now, I don't think there's going to be many goals here. So under 2.5 goals at plus 110, Crystal Palace v Brentford completes my 3 best bets in the Premier League this weekend. So a recap, I am going to go for Liverpool to win to nil against Ipswich, minus 120. I'm going to go for Chelsea to add to Pep Guardiola and Manchester City's worries with the win on the money line at plus 250. And finally, I'm going to go for under 2.5 goals, Crystal Palace against Brentford at plus 110. That's it for this week. Take care. Keep good luck with all your bets, and I'll speak to you all again next week.
All right. Great job, Nigel. Good to talk to you. And let's cash some tickets in the Prim. Excellent. And hoping Man City continues to lose. Super Bowl MVP bets. We touched on it earlier. I think you can make the case for a long shot, especially defensive MVP, if it's Chiefs against Eagles in the Super Bowl. Low-scoring game, two good defensive teams, a compromised quarterback and Hurts. Plus, can they contain or slow down Barkley? I think that opens the door for a lot of guys here. And you're looking at long shots such as Worthy 70-1, Jones 60-1. I know you mentioned a couple guys. Mitchell 250-1, Goddard 150-1. So there's, I think, a long shot could cash if that's your Super Bowl matchup. What say you?
Well, so 9 defensive players have actually won the award before.
That many?
Yeah, it's higher than I would have guessed.
Von Miller the last? Was it?
Probably. I don't have the list in front of me. I just have overall numbers by position. 4 linebackers, 3 defensive backs, 2 defensive linemen have won it in the history of the Super Bowl. And 9 wide receivers have won. 7 running backs. So more receivers than running backs. And then 33 times, an overwhelming amount, the quarterback has won the Super Bowl MVP. So it can be a little frustrating. Again, look at what happened Monday night in the national title game. Yep. I know that you were happy because you had inside information that your cousin was going to go off in the game.
Yeah, he was great.
Will Howard. And, what was he, 17-21?
Yes. And 4 straight touchdown drives. Bond's 100-1. You mentioned him an hour ago.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
But Junkins had 110 and 3 touchdowns, and he didn't get the award. It's like the Super Bowl a couple years ago with the Chiefs and the 49ers. 5 years ago now, in fact. I thought that should have been Williams, the running back for the Chiefs all day long. But because they came roaring back, Mahomes hit a big pass to Hill. They looked at the quarterback and said, no, he's got to win the MVP. I thought Williams, he iced the game for him late, had a huge game on the ground, should have won the award, didn't. I never had a bet on the guy. I thought James White had a great case.
Yes, he did.
The year the Patriots came back against the Falcons.
Chuck Edel had him 200-1. He was livid.
Yeah. Oh, mama.
Yep. He was awesome in that game.
Yeah, he was. Unstoppable. I know, so it's tough. Like, you're seeing plus number prices, obviously, right now, and all 4 of the quarterbacks. And, like...
Definitely could see no Mahomes. I think that's a bad bet. Mahomes. What kind of numbers is he going to put up? And then plus it's the fatigue stuff. And what if there's more controversy with the officiating, too? I mean,
I also don't think voters have a problem with that, though. Maybe I'm wrong with that, because Michael Jordan probably should have won the MVP every year that he played in the NBA.
Yeah.
Didn't.
No doubt.
People in the league got tired of that.
Yeah.
Kobe won 1 MVP.
Now, that's hard to believe.
Yeah. This year, Joker is not going to win it, probably. What is SGA now, minus $5?
Yeah.
And Joker's numbers are stupid. It seems fake for a video game, but... I don't know.
Yeah, because you would think if that's the matchup, maybe 220 yards passing from Mahomes. I'm surprised he's the favorite to have most passing yards this week. And I know Philly's got a great defense, but still, he's like, in that plus 180 range. Yeah. Hurts is as high as 8-1. But then Hurts could maybe only have 130, 140 yards passing.
Yeah, that's true.
So it could be a low-scoring Super Bowl, and I think you can make the case for several people if that's the matchup.
Well, if you if you have a future ticket on the Bills, or if you're contemplating betting them to win the Super Bowl, won't you sprinkle a little bit on Allen to win the MVP as well? Like, he's going to be the guy, I would think, right, if Buffalo gets there?
He had average numbers last week. That's the other thing. He didn't do much. Look at his numbers. 160 yards passing? Not much on the ground?
But they didn't do anything offensively anyway.
Yeah.
That's actually a good question. If that was a Super Bowl last week against Baltimore, who's the MVP? Do you take a defensive player?
That would have been a tough call.
Very tough.
Yeah. This is good, though.
Give me Butker.
I don't mind Carter.
I'll be happy.
Yeah, Carter's 100-1 too. I don't mind
that.
Well,
there's an angle for that, I think, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Thomas Gable, the man in charge, Borgata, sportsbook in Atlantic City on the program coming up next. They couldn't stop taking Eagles money 2 years ago. Is it similar again this year?